And from Olympia Lanes in Hammond, Indiana, this is the PBA50 South Shore Open presented by Ebonite. Once again, everyone, I am Phil Brylow. With me again, glad to have you, Tom Carter. And I'll tell you what, it is going to be a heck of a show tonight because the big news, Brian LeClair looking to go for back-to-back titles.
Well, he's led the tournament 2 weeks in a row. Back-to-back titles. He's got a hot hand. I call him Sir Strike a lot, and I think that's just exactly what he's going to do on the show.
Yeah, Ron Mohr we saw last week in Monticello as well. Ron Mohr, he fought through Cashier's round and both match play rounds to get here.
And he's a super senior to do all that. Our first match is going to be interesting because Ryan Shafer hasn't been on the show for a while, and we got Sammy making his second show this year. So I think our opening match is going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, let's get to the lanes. We are ready to rock and roll here in Hammond. And Ryan Shafer getting ready to start things off. And Shafer, you heard kind of the grunt on the first shot, wasn't happy.
Well, Ryan switched balls right at the end of his practice session thinking he's got a better look with what he's just threw. He's throwing a melee jab right now, but he qualified throwing an asymmetrical ball, a new one that just came out called a Night Prowler. And then we got Sammy here showing his ball. He's throwing a pin down that new IQ Emerald. All the players on the show, I think you're going to see, are going to play really tight to the right. But the lanes actually allowed them to open it up. They could actually be left and throw right, but they felt like this week, to strike, you could hit the pocket swinging the ball, but to actually strike, you moved right, kept the speed up, and kept the ball on line.
So Sammy Ventura, tough second-place finish earlier in the year to the GOAT, as many like to call him, Walter Williams Jr., as Walter Ray threw the first 11 against Sammy in Clearwater at the Johnny Petraglia BBL.
There's not much you can do about that when somebody throws the front 11 at you. You just hope that maybe you have the next 12.
So Ventura, early open frame for the man they call Sammy V.
Sammy V, also known as Mr. Good Stuff, and that is the second split. And he was actually having a little bite to eat before the practice round. And he goes, we got a bowl on 11 and 12, and I didn't have a good look on that pair in qualifying, and I'm not really happy about being on that pair in the show.
Well, let's talk about this pattern a little bit because it's the Don Carter pattern. It's 39 feet in length, and once again, it was a lower volume this week, so changes happened pretty quickly all week long.
Yeah, the pattern absolutely. Oh, he just picked that up.
How about that for Sammy?
The pattern for the lighter volume is surprisingly enough, like I said, the lanes did allow you to hook the ball. You could actually go to fourth arrow and swing it out to 5 and get it back, and you could hit the pocket, but your percentage of carry wasn't all that good. The guys that were a little bit firmer, however, they tricked their release to play it to the right and stay to the right, their percentage of carry was much greater.
The blower 7-pin for Shafer.
Well, it's kind of funny because Ryan in practice was a little bit tighter in practice, and now he is moved. To me, it looks like a little bit left. He's kind of opening it up, and that's the problem. This pattern allows you to move left and get to the pocket, but your strike percentage isn't good. And the guys like Ryan that could actually spin the ball, and you're going to see that a little bit later in the show when Harry Sullins comes in. Guys that can actually kind of twirl the ball a little bit, we're allowed to stay to the right. And that's, if you got that release in your arsenal and you can do that, there are some patterns that you can just dominate. And we always talk about being up the back of the ball, but sometimes that spin release allows the ball not to read the front. You get it cleaner through the front end, and then you got a much better shape on the back end. And we always talk about shaping the ball to the pocket.
Yeah. And it's the key shape they're looking for is that mid lane. It's so crucial, especially on a 39-foot pattern.
Well, it's such a tricky pattern because it's just enough oil. You can't really play way out, and they're just dry enough that the ball hooks early if you move in. And so some guys that if they never played on this pattern, they all go, oh, it's a reverse block because the pattern's a little flatter in the middle. So you move left thinking you're going to get more skid, and you might get more hook.
That's always a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I think I'll make like a 5 and 3, and I'll really get that ball down the lane, and it hooked at 25 feet. You're going, well, what just happened?
I'll only mention his best career finish was back at the Giant Petraeus BBL Open. He also finished third last year in the Dick Weber Championship for PBA60 members. And we've seen a couple of those this week with the entry angles on the pocket 6-pin.
Yeah, Sammy was telling me he took some time off. Altogether, I think this is his third show in the last 10 tournaments that he's bowled, he said. And so percentage-wise, that's pretty good considering, he's not out here all the time. He's a grinder. I mean, he's got some tricks up his sleeve as far as to get the ball. He can hook it, he can play it straight, and he's got a little bit of that spin thing. And obviously a little showmanship at the line.
And a little waggle out of the knees for Sammy V. But he finds himself down by 12 early. And is it time for a ball change for Sammy?
Well, I think Sammy's saying was, and the reason he's using that ball is shim to win. He's trying to find that shim to where he can play really tight next to the pattern and not give it away a whole lot. But, you had 5 guys practicing on it for 15 minutes, and, that shim might not quite be there the same way.
Yeah. We actually only had 4 guys practicing on it, and we'll go over that in a second once Sammy V gets down to the strike. Because Brian LeClair, once again this week, chose not to practice. Talked to him while he was sitting there. I go, you superstitious now or something? He goes, no, he just, because of the condition of his left knee, doesn't want to start, stop with competition. So
I can relate to that. If you got bad knees, that starting, stopping thing, and that's hard for a guy that comes out of that cashier's round. You bowl 5 games, you basically got an hour break before the next 5, and it's tough to get started again.
So Shafer, that was quick out of the hand, but he still made it happen. And
that was a dead stop. The second day here, the humidity and synthetic approaches, and obviously the people that bowl here and bowl around the country on synthetic lanes, depending on what the temperature is outside, if it rained or whatever, and if they didn't have the air going and get the humidity out, there might be more of a battle with the approaches than with the condition that's on the lane.
Well, and sometimes, too, all it takes, you don't know exactly sometimes when you got a little sweat on the forehead.
No.
Stop. Somebody else is sliding before you at the foul line. All of a sudden, that little bead of sweat falls off on the approach. You're going to just stick like glue on that bad boy.
Yeah, and when you bowl, again, on the synthetics, you get out of that track area over towards, say you're shooting for a 10-pin or you stand way right for a 7-pin. That area of the approach doesn't get used a whole lot. And so it doesn't really get broke in, and there's no in-between. It either tends to be really tacky on those ends or really slick. For the most part, it's really tacky.
So Shafer, you see, getting ready on lane 11. He's looking for his first PBA50 Tour title of his career. Not happy with it out of the hand.
No.
Hey, let's parlay another crossover.
When dead left, he did lead the tournament. Unfortunately, he ended up in 5th down here. But you kind of got a feel for the guy because he is a diabetic. We had 5 on a pair, and it's tough for a guy like him. Miss lunch, maybe miss dinner, you're getting close, and to keep his strength up. And he fought through all that to be the tournament leader going into the position or the match play round today.
Yeah, Sammy V had to go through 2 rounds of competition today. He finished 9th in qualifying, so he had to hit match play round 1. Stuck out of there in 4th position, then of course matched the 4th position here in match play round 2 to get into the stepladder. You see Sammy right there. He knows he's back in this match. He's only down 2 pins as he flutters the rack down.
Well, he crossed 12 at the arrows on that and took it to 8, which is, a pretty much tight line. That's only a 4-board little bump there. And he was actually practicing tighter than that with a little bit more speed. So either he made that adjustment or that was a subconscious adjustment.
Well, easy to do in some cases. What's the old saying? Sometimes it's not just the foul line adjustment that makes it happen, but the first step adjustment.
Well, see, that was farther right at the arrows and farther right down lane. So that 12 to 8 on the previous shot, and that was more like 8 to 5. And that could be just the difference in the pair because these pairs, and it's bends that way. I think every week we talk about it on the show, from pair to pair, and within that pair, they play a lot different.
Yeah.
We have yet to have, a pair play the same. We expect pairs to be different as you move because other guys playing different lines or using whatever, urethane or more surface, and it's going to change the shape of the pattern. And it looks like he's just a little bit too deep. That ball's really a long ball, and it's getting down the lane just a little bit too clean.
Yeah, that 4-pin on a light hit, you know that the reaction needs to be that bit stronger because you're just saying the head pin at such a huge angle to the sideboard.
Right.
It comes back off, it seems like, in front of the 4-pin and doesn't get to it.
I'm kind of surprised he hasn't switched back to the other ball just to give him, if he's going to have to move left, to give him a little more shape down lane.
Hold on.
Ooh, that was close.
Still keeps him within within 8 actually. As Ventura, if he were to strike again, would have 108 in the 8th. So Shafer's 100. One of these days, I'm going to remember the full scoring rules of bowling while I'm doing commentary.
How many years is this going to take?
Yeah, it could take a few. I do know, however, right now that Shafer's maximum is 240. But for Ventura, his maximum is 258. There you see South Shore Open.
See how sharp that ball broke at the back end? And that's flirting with death, and I think he needs to square that up a little bit. I mean, it's fun to watch your ball bounce like that because I can say that's what mine did this week. It was, from pair to pair, was a little rough for me. Oh, did you see my tumbles? Speaking of that, yesterday, did you see that?
That was before, and I did mention it on air, that was before we actually hit the air where the chair moved on you while you were trying to stretch.
And I went down, bowling balls fell on top of me. That was priceless.
At least you were okay.
And it figures they got to fall on the knee I just had replaced.
Ho-hum.
There is a black cat, I swear to God, that follows me around everywhere.
Well, Ventura hoping not to find that black cat right now as he has a chance to get his lead out. 29 pins. Pardon me, to 19 pins if he can strike here.
The farther we get in this match, you're going to see Sammy really readjust his hand, shake his hand in and out. I mean, he's really a field player. The ball's got to feel good in his hand before he throws it.
There it is. Sammy looking to stretch to lead out. These two guys have seen each other pretty often, both being from the mid-north New York State area.
Well, we got 3 guys from the east side. LeClair,
It's true.
So the East Coast is well represented tonight.
Yeah, we've got Shafer from Horseheads, New York, Sammy V from Syracuse, and Brian LeClair not too far away in the state capital, Albany.
Then on the other side of the country, Ron Mohr from Las Vegas. That guy is just amazing.
Well, he started off on the other side of the standings today, and it's amazing watching him get all the way in the Stepladder. Mohr waiting for the winner of this match. And
Sammy looks like pretty much locked in. I mean, he's kind of going to the high hard one right now, keeping that ball on line, and that's the way the guys scored. And it's funny, the first day, for the most part, guys hooked it quite a bit. And as the tournament went on, even later on the first day and all of the second day, they really figured out how to shim it up and play it tight. And then that's when the scores went sideways.
Last year,
Michael Hoggan shoots back-to-back 300s the second day.
Absolutely. Last year was Shafer's career best finish in the PBA50. Finished second to Norm Duke at the PBA50 Security Federal Savings Bank Championship. And we almost saw that pocket 6-pin again, this time with the 10.
Yeah. Ryan needs to pick up a different ball. I mean, because that one's not getting the job done. He's got to look for a different motion. And I'm not so sure that, as deep as he is compared to where Sammy's playing, even a different ball is going to give him the right angle entry.
Yeah, I mean, right now he's in an all-or-nothing situation anyway. Sammy's stringing strikes, and Shafer's just got to find something here. If he spares, he's going to max out at 218, and Sammy can just mark out to get there. Sammy marks out, he's in the 220s, so.
He's going to throw it again, and I'm really – because Ryan is never scared to switch lines or equipment, to try to figure out the right carry.
Is he just thinking changing the hand position here, Tim?
That's kind of what I'm thinking. It's either he's going to change speeds or he's going to change a hand position because he's got to get that ball not to hook so violently on the back end.
2 PBA50 regional titles.
Yeah, he's crossing like 17, taking it to 8. That one, he got it a little bit tighter down lane so it wasn't so violent on the back end. But he needs to do that the rest of the way out to put some pressure back on Sammy.
Might be too late for Shafer, though, as Ventura right now just looking to fill frames. My original extra frame nickname. Before
Phil
it was $2,
Frames?
Before it was $2 Phil, I was Phil Frames.
I learn something new every day at this job.
I like $2 Phil a lot better. Reflects my personality a bit more.
You got to explain to me how you got that name someday.
Oh, I can show you in just a moment. Sammy V just keeps striking, not this time, but he knows.
He knows he's in the lead then, and that's not going to hurt him. You just got to make sure he makes the spare and fills the 10th frame.
Yep. I mean, right now, spare here, 9 spare in the 10th, and count using the 220s. Most for Shafer, 218.
And he will be facing a Hall of Famer that – how many $2 bills do you have, for God's sake?
More on that later.
Excuse me, folks.
Let's get back to the action.
Just figured out why he's $2 bill.
Sammy looking for the cover there, and no doubt slams it into the pit.
There's really not a whole lot of pressure on Sammy right now, so the swing gets pretty loose. He gets through this first match. But you got a guy that you're going to bowl that's got focus that is unbelievable. It's amazing. He gets through qualifying. He wasn't doing that good in qualifying. He gets to match play today, and it's a different Ron Mohr. And he figures out a way to strike, and it's amazing.
And he's won in this building before. This is what.
There goes Sammy. He's messing with the hand, and he does it a lot.
Any mark gets Sammy into the next match against Ron Mohr. Best mark of all is 10 back.
That's any mark. Congratulations to Sammy. He's been working at this for a while, trying to get his first PBA 50 senior title. And he's made 3 shows in the last 10 tournaments. It's just a matter of time. Out here, we always say you have to learn how to win. You got to keep your heart rate down. You got to keep your breathing down, and you can't think ahead. One shot at a time. That is enough.
Yep.
That is enough.
Sure is. And Ventura is going to move on and take on Ron Mohr. Mohr's going to get some practice. And Tom Carter, I know you're always good at the intel. You like peeking out of the booth. So we're going to let you sneak out early.
And see what's going on.
See what's going on. We will let Ryan Shafer finish this match. And we'll be back with Ryan Shafer versus Ron Mohr in our second stepladder match after Ron Mohr's practice.
Nice hit for Ryan Shafer, everybody. Very good turn up for him. Sammy Ventura moves on, and Ryan Mohr coming on board in just a few minutes.
And with the announcements, from John Weber, we are set. I am Phil Brylow. With me again, Tom Carter, and we've got Ron Mohr against Sammy Ventura, and Sammy gets to start off on that left lane.
Well, Sammy's got the hot hand, obviously. He's playing the lanes way tighter than his opponent did. I just talked to Ryan. I said, how come he didn't change balls and throw the other ball? And he felt that ball was even going to give him less on the back than what he had. And then I told him where the Sammy was playing, and I said, you were 3 to 4 boards left of him at the arrows. And he said he had to do that, and he did change your wrist position. I mentioned that. He changed to get the ball down the lane, but unfortunately it got down the lane, but it created too much angle or the wrong angle at the back end and didn't allow him to carry.
Well, we saw Sammy start slow last game, and of course Sammy didn't get any practice on this pair between games. Ron Mohr got the practice. We saw Sammy go on lane 10 just to stay loose. And here's the man. He's got 16 games in already today, and he's trying to match.
When you do 750 sit-ups and 450 push-ups a day, those 16 games aren't anything.
Yeah. It's still mentally taxing, though. That's the thing. You can train your body all you want to keep that brain mentally sharp. You got to be on top of it, and Ron Mohr definitely is.
And he's got that famous hook stop shot at the pocket. But his mental game, and we talked about this last year a lot, and I talked to him about it. When you're an air traffic controller, and he did that for years, your mental focus is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I asked him because, this is a small concourse, and there's a lot of noise going on. And I said, how do you block that out? I said, how do you stay focused? And it reverted back to his job. He goes, you got people sitting around talking with mics to the aircraft, and you got to focus on your people, And that's what he does. He's very good at shutting everything out. Kind of like that movie, Clear the Mechanism, and he does, and does a phenomenal job at it.
And he's not where Sammy's at, except that time we saw the 8 fall 8 in the first frame, and that time stands in defiance of Ron Mohr.
Well, it's only the second frame, and unless the building falls in, Ron Mohr is going to give Sammy a match. He's just that type of player. His focus is incredible. If you could teach the young bowlers that you have a great physical game, but if you could control your mind the way that Ron does and block things out and just stay in the moment, you're going to be an incredible bowler. But I think training your mind is the hardest thing to do. You can teach people to bowl.
Yeah. You
can't teach them to think right.
I'll be the first one to admit that.
Second one over there.
Especially on the lanes. Yeah, we got Jenna Dereshevsky steering the ship for everybody tonight, giving you these great pictures.
He's a little bit in on that right lane, so he must have seen something. That was like that 12 to 8 he did before. So he's not playing the pair totally the same. Again, we didn't really have a pair that played the same this whole PBA50 swing. It's just the way that lanes break down and people throw, and when you move pairs, you need to expect that they're going to be different. I know in league you hate when lanes change and you got to make moves, but we're used to it out here. That's the name of the game. And the greats that are out here see the moves before they ever happen.
Sammy V looking for the double. Looking for his first tour win as well.
Yeah, he's happy and focused. I don't think Sammy's feeling the pressure that he's felt in the past. He's learning how to win. He's learning how to stay in the moment.
I think the key was I got to talk to Sammy while we were breaking down after Walter Ray took care of business in Clearwater, and Sammy goes, the part that upsets me is you never know how many chances you're going to get at this. And next time I get one, I'm not going to let it go. And he's really got that focus going right now.
And that's what it takes. I don't care how many tournaments you bowl, you don't get a chance. Even if you won, you got to think back, how many chances have you had to win? Walter's probably an exception to the rule, but it sounds like he's got a lot of wins. But how many tournaments altogether in 30 years has Walter bowled, for God's sakes?
How many thousands of tournaments. So, got to get some good shots there from Sam Rivler out on the camera for us tonight. That
daredevil danger that he carries with him everywhere just for these type of patterns. He goes, that ball is never going to leave my bag unless it crumbles.
He's got 3 or 4 stockpiled in the basement back in Las Vegas.
I would think so.
So Mohr currently down by 14 after 3 frames. And you see Sammy Ventura's wife tapping herself on the shoulder
she was
there.
so nervous when Sammy was bowling. She had to wear out her shoes. I know she wore out the carpet. She's back and forth. She goes, I can't watch.
There's a match that Sammy and Ryan Shafer had during match play early on in the match play round 2 today where Sammy had to strike to beat Ryan on the fill ball in the 10th frame, and she was leaning backwards against Chris Keene. Chris Keene doing his best, Dick Weber Sportsmanship Award, helping out a bowler's wife, so she couldn't see what happened. And are you kidding me?
Slow messenger. That's a super senior messenger that don't knock anything down.
Excuse me. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah, Hammond 911. we have a crime against the 10-pin. Yeah, it should have been knocked over by the head pin, and the head pin got lazy on it. Can we investigate?
I know Ron thought that was going to fall because the pin coming over just didn't have enough oomph. That's one of them flat bottom pins.
They're fresh here at Olympia Lanes. They got the new lumber in for you guys here at the PBA50 Tour. And tell you what, this center, longtime hosts of the PBA and
23
PBA50.
years, I think, something like
just
that.
Just for the PBA50, yeah.
Yeah, and we're coming back already. Talked to Nick. We're coming back next year. So that's just amazing that these people do such a great job. Nick and Mike Cozy, supporting the PBA50, and they're so good to us when we get here.
Yeah, and just the support we get from Northwest Indiana area in general for this event. And Sammy gets the payback on the 7-pin.
Those pins must have thought Ron was still bowling.
That'll keep him up by 14, though, so nothing to get too worried about at this point for Sammy.
It was a tough break. I mean, we haven't seen it. Knock on wood, I hope I don't black hat anybody. But this pattern allowed lots of 7-10s to be thrown this week. I mean, it was so easy to leave one. I think Tommy Baker, if I'm not mistaken, he told me in the turn he left 11 altogether.
Oh, jeez. That
is just an unheard of number, in 16 games to leave 7-10s. That's interesting here. We got one guy throwing a pin up ball, and we have a guy throwing a pin down ball. Pin down ball going to be less differential, not going to be quite as sharp on the back end, a little bit smoother. Doesn't mean it hooks early. And people say, oh, the pin down hooks early. No, just takes a little of the diff out, so it makes it shape different. And that's what we look at out here is shape. The way the ball shapes to the pocket and continuation through the pins.
And adjusting the cover stock is going to do a lot more to change the way how early that ball hooks as compared to where that pin position is 90% of the time, correct?
You're correct.
I got one right. Yes. I'm learning from you, Tom. That's the best part about having you in the booth. You can pick up just the little things that can help you with your own game at home while you're watching this here on FloBowling.
Well, we try to pass on information, what the bowlers tell me, to the people that watch, because maybe it's things you haven't thought about or maybe you haven't tried. And a lot of this game is all about experimenting to see how big of a, adjustments, transition arsenal you can make for yourself just in hand positions and doing little different tricks. If you got 3 hand positions, that ball becomes 3 different motions for you. It's like having 3 different balls.
He got a little more length out of that one. It looked like he came out of that one a bit different.
Yeah. Ron's very good at keeping the wrist extremely firm, and you watch especially a lot of the kids that at the point of release their wrist really rolls with the ball. And since being senior players, we don't have the speed. If you can keep your wrist a little stiffer, you get it much longer down the lane. You don't, that wonderful snap roll that you can do with your wrist creates, unfortunately, early roll. There's nothing wrong with that if you got enough speed, and you're playing that for the pattern. But, a lot of the things that we do out here is kind of like playing the lotto. If we get the right combinations, you score great. If you get the wrong combinations, it's all bad.
Some more looking for the double.
The famous walkout, he knew it was there.
So he did carry that one pretty flush.
So Sammy got by the first match pretty handily. Now Ron's kind of getting dialed in, so Sammy's focus has got to stay right where it's at, and he can't be thinking about the frames ahead. job at hand.
Sammy looking to pack it back, and wow, the wrap 10, vicious.
Yeah, he's looking down to see where he ended. You know, and a lot of us, when we're making shots, we know where we stand, and we execute the shot, but you don't look at the foul line to see where you ended. I mean, did you drift? Did you walk straight? And obviously that changes the angle through the front part of the lane depending on where you end up at the foul line. And a lot of times as players, and we're watching other players, I don't care where they start, it's where they end. I mean, Brian Kretzer is a prime example. If you see where he started and where he ended, there's going to be 15 boards different.
That was an interesting follow-through for Sammy there on the 10-pin. Kind of had the back leg up in front of him already, sat it down. And
that's on that, and you easily to pull something too.
Yeah.
But that's, the farther left you get, that's that tackiness. And we had rain today, so the humidity and synthetic approaches is not a good combination for bowlers.
And I see, it's not much of a glisten on Sammy's forehead, but a little bit, and you never know. All it takes is just a pinhead of perspiration on the approach from someone, and it can put a little bit of a break on your slide.
Oh, how about a 16-foot break? You could end up at the arrows.
That looks better for Sammy. Wow, that took off on the back end. I thought he was going to be in the pocket.
So now he's looking down, and I wonder if he's thinking about where he walked, because that ball took off a little bit early. And if he made an adjustment, you got to be careful on where you end. And as a coach, I worry about that when you're coaching people, because they don't know where they ended. I say, why? What are you standing on? They tell you, where'd you end? I don't know. And that's a big factor, because if you're not basically ending on the same board or the board that you planned on ending on, your angles through the front part of the lane change, right? And you wonder why your ball reaction changed, and you're not even ending in the same spot, so it's got to change.
How many bowlers look down at their feet after they slide when their ball goes errant on the back end? They think it might just be a miss from where they aimed with their target. How many? I mean, it's probably going to be, I know for me, it's probably half the time of where I end up with my feet, but I don't, obviously I don't bowl as much as I used to. It's just easy for me to wander a board or two.
You'll see the greats. I mean, we watch it in qualifying. The great bowlers pay attention, because it's all about, this is a game of angles, and if you don't get the angles right, because that was not a good shot. He came out of his shoes on that.
And the 1-6-10. Hold on one second. Tom, hold on. Checking the stats here.
Checking the stats. How many times did you leave that?
This is the first time for Ron in 2019. I guarantee you on the 1-6-10.
That I guess I'm at a loss for words here, because he didn't look down like he stuck. It just looked like either his timing went off, but he just jumped all over that. He lost it at the bottom of the swing. And if he picks this up, well, how many times do you shoot that in your life?
Right, 1 for 1, 100% for the season for Ron Mohr. Well, I guess it's just like your super washout. You just don't have to worry about the 2 and the 4 pin.
Right.
But you see the frustration right now from Ron going.
He just gave away pins, and now he's 2 pins behind.
And I'm just wondering what he's going to do to you got to bring it back down right now. If you amped your ball speed in the last one, what do you got to do now to bring yourself back in?
I'm really surprised that he hasn't taken maybe a little bit more time to get on the approach. I mean, this is pretty quick for Ron to get right back up and get set so quick. Sometimes when you make a bad shot, you got to take a second to reflect, but he did it. I mean,
he was waving it to the right, stay right, stay right, stay right, but it was a half pocket hit with the 6 kicking the 10. You said it was easy to kind of get fooled with the mid and back end reaction.
The mid lanes here is, I think, the trick, and it's been the trick this whole swing, is getting the ball through that so it stores enough energy to strike, And I think we were talking about it earlier, that this whole season, it seemed like the seniors that could actually throw it a little firmer and a little straighter are doing very well this year.
Yeah.
And not like the guys that really kind of or medium speed or slower speed like myself that have to stand left and kind of circle it because of our speed. The guys that can actually stay up around, I want to say, at least 15 and a half, 16 and a half. Brian LeClair can get up to 17 and a half, and some of these guys can throw it harder. And I think that's a big reason why Brian bowled well this week. He actually took a ball, shined it up, moved right, and he said he just kept it really firm up the right side. But not everybody has that ability to throw it hard, you know. And I think the scoring pace is conducive to keeping the ball in front to get it through that mid lane, staying on top of the shot.
He stayed on top of that one. He's walking it out. Scramble him up for a double for Ventura. The guns are out. Yeah. 6 guns ablazing for Sammy.
Mr. Good Stuff.
He knows he cannot be shut out by Ron Mohr.
Well, you know,
before he steps up again.
Another thing, I think you get the crowd on your side, that pumps you up a little bit, and he's definitely got the crowd on his side. They're smiling because you never know what Sammy's going to do.
You don't want to say mandatory strike here for Ron Mohr in the foundation frame, but it's pretty darn close to it. You can't afford to give up 21 pins in the middle of 2 strikes here when you're down already by 2. That's well left from where he was last time. That's the overcorrection.
It almost looks like he's over-exaggerating hit that follow-through to project it down the lane. And the longer I think that you over-exaggerate that follow-through, you actually hang on the ball a little bit too long. It slows it down because that ball looked like it was going very slow down the lane compared to other shots. And now you're just giving it more time to react.
And it's going to end the dream now for Ron Mohr.
That is a super errant shot and something totally unexpected out of the Hall of Famer Ron Mohr.
Ventura just needs pins now in the 10th frame.
Pins are good. Much better post at the line. And by the reaction of the crowd, not a good reaction. Another split. And so
pocket 7-10, so he's going to fire at this.
I just talked about 7-10s, and
that's why we didn't want to show it. We saw it was happening. That's why we didn't want to show it. We didn't want to have Ron deal with that. But he's going to end up taking home a 4th place finish.
Sammy climbing the ladder. Dream's getting closer. He's learning how to win.
Yes, he is, and he gets the legend.
The legend, Harry Sullins. And that guy's bowled more tournaments than
almost Walter Ray.
Yeah.
Almost Walter Ray.
I was going to put him right in there with Don Carter.
So Sammy Ventura, he's going to finish off his 10th frame. We'll see if Brian LeClair takes some practice right now. He does get 4 shots to come on to see how the lanes are transitioning. And then Harry Sullins will get his 6 shots, and we'll get back with our 3rd stepladder match between Ventura and Sullins after the practice.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Sammy Ventura will match number 2. Congratulations to Ron Mohr as well. I got to tell you, 8 years ago. Well, Harry Sullins, everybody, Sammy Ventura, good luck to us.
Sammy Ventura, 2 wins so far to this point, 227 to 198 over Shafer, and 223 to 177 over Ron Mohr. And Tom, we saw Sam change balls in the 10th frame. And it wasn't very successful, was it?
No, that was just I went down and talked to Matt McNeil. That was just a free look just to see what was going on. And they decided the same thing that we seen, that ball was not going to work, but they needed to take a look.
That's going high.
That got high and got the break. You know, John Weber just said something that, you know, Harry hasn't won in 8 years, and this is his first show in over 2 years. I didn't realize it had been 8 years since he had won a title.
Yeah, let's take a look here. His best finish so far in 2019, 7th. Last time he won, 2011 senior when this was the Lake County Open. But, I mean, what a career this man's had. Finished second last year, Teron Mohr in the PBA50 Dick Weber Championship. So he's come close. Just needs to get over the hump.
Well, it's going to be
You know he's going to stick it to him right away.
Yeah. Brooklyn and Brooklyn.
Yes, indeed.
So Harry having the same kind of shape, ball motion as Ryan Shafer because they both kind of spin the ball. So it's going to be a little interesting to see if Harry has the same look down lane or if he can combat that hang spot that Ryan had.
Now, Sullins, he's the reigning Central Region PBA50 Player of the Year after a heck of a year last year. And he parlays the crossover with a pocket strike into a double.
But nothing better than coming back after getting a break and then packing 10 because at least you feel like that there's some reprieve. You didn't throw it that bad.
So we'll see what Sammy can do here to match.
And in qualifying, a lot of us were talking after qualifying that, and Amaletta was a big one that said when the lanes changed, there was no warning. It just happened. You'd be lined up to the pocket, and maybe your fifth shot went dead left. Sammy doing the same thing. He's answering the call.
Sammy for the entire event averaged 223. That's about what he's bowling right now, back-to-back 220 games, and he's going to probably need a little bit more of that to get by Ventura, or to get by Sullins, I should say. And not a lot of games in the 180s for Ventura all week long. His low game 170 to finish up qualifying yesterday. And that's what took him down out of the top 8 into 9th place. And he had to get through both match play rounds today to make it into the stepladder.
So he just struck on the left lane, the lane that he just went Brooklyn on. And from my angle, it looked like he moved a little bit right with that ball. It went out to where the oil is still at because we know that the lanes hook a little bit more as you go left just because of the topography of the bowling center. And this is a high lineage center. So the center part of that lane has got to have some pits and valleys, and there might not be enough oil to cover those. So if you move left, the ball could be hooking even more, which I know our standard adjustment is move left, but sometimes you just have to move right.
And I think Harry did the same thing. Could you just let the ball get to the mid lanes and just kind of hydroplane that a little farther than last time?
Yeah, Harry's ball, it struck, but it wasn't one of those powerful strikes. It was kind of one of those light swisher type things where Sammy's ball actually drove to the pocket because he was farther right through the mid lane, so he went straighter. Harry's still kind of giving it a little room. So is that the question? Is that going to come and bite him in the butt later on in this match?
Some other top finishers this week: Gary Alstott in 16th, Dean Billings 15th, Brian Kretzer 14th, Hall of Famer Ameletta Monticelli in 13th.
Lenny Borsch with the voodoo roll in 8th. Just couldn't get it done in match play in the position round. He caught a really tough pair. He went split, I think spare, split. It just he wanted off that pair really bad.
Yeah, he actually hit that pair in the 5th game and in the 6th position round game, 15 and 16 back to back, and he went with a pair of 150s, and that dropped him way back into that 8th position, tied with Darrell Bauer. So Bruce Hall was 12th, Doug Becker 11th, Leroy Johnson was 10th, and we mentioned Bauer and Borsch tied for 8th and 9th. Sammy needs to match.
Sammy doing a little bit of fidgeting going on there.
Get it comfortable, get it in the pocket, and get all 10 down. As the stroll back to the ball return happens for Sammy.
Sammy's acting like he's been up here in this position 100 times. You know, he's just like, I'm just going through the motions, and whatever happens, happens. And that's a great attitude to have. I mean, you're loose, the swing's loose. You know, pins know when you're pinching on that ball.
Now, I know it's early, but we've had some high-scoring matches in step-ladders in the PBA50 Tour before a couple years back. In Brentwood, Monticelli and Chris Warren, 296, 280 was the highest-scoring step-ladder match of all time on the PBA50 Tour. They're starting to pace out like they might have a chance to beat it.
Sammy moved farther right. He's playing like 5 down lane, so he did move right. So I think Harry's got a good look on the right lane. He's going to take a re-rack, I believe. The left lane is the one that I'm concerned on what he's going to do there. Is he going to stay where he's at, or is he going to tighten that lineup?
Once again, I want to thank the South Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau for all their support for all 23 years of the South Shore Open. And if you want to check out what's great to do outside of Olympia Lanes here in northwestern Indiana, check out southshorecva.com and get all that information. Thanks once again to the South Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau for their support of this event. Looking for the handful for Sullins. There's the drive for 5, but the 5 doesn't drive.
A messenger blocked it. It was going, and he had that pin come off the sidewall and stop it.
You see that so much now in the modern game with resin than you did back in the days of urethane and polyester, where the head pin comes back off the wall so fast it stops the 5 from getting there.
These balls are so powerful. Harry is seeing something, getting a little disturbed, or heard something. Yeah. And it's easy to hear something in this because the concourse is so close to the bowlers.
Yeah, you could practically reach out where Sammy V's sitting right now from the bleachers and touch the back of his shoulder.
Oh, most definitely.
So the first blemish on the scorecard for Sullins comes at a pretty inopportune time.
Harry's throwing a code black. He's got the pin and the ring finger on. And that really mellows, we believe, let's say that. That really mellows the ball. I mean, because pin up makes it go a little longer, more angular. Pin down changes the diff. So pin in the ring is, kind of in between. And it shapes the ball a little bit different. And he's thrown 2 balls, an IQ Tour and the code black. Both of them drilled the same way. Now, Harry, unlike what Sammy did, Harry went out to the same spot, but he crossed the lane to get there, more of it than going down the lane. And he's talking about moving farther left because that ball went high. I'm not so sure that's the right move because you watch Sammy, and he's drilling the pocket. So,
well, look at what, as you mentioned, Ryan Shafer. Look what happened when Shafer tried going left before and tried the shape.
The shape it wasn't looking good at all. And the way Sammy's throwing, you're not going to give him you've already given him 2 breaks right now. And Sammy could shoot 300, and I honestly believe that it could happen. He seems to be cool, calm, and collected.
Thing is, do you want to shoot 300? Because there always seems to be that letdown.
There's that letdown.
After. I mean, one guy that didn't have a letdown earlier this week was Michael Haugen Jr. We mentioned the back-to-back 300s earlier. He's going to be joining us the final match to talk a little bit about that before we get started. Then we're just going to keep him on straight play-by-play once he's done. You get to brag a little bit there, Mr. Haugen, about shooting back-to-back 300. Have you ever done that back-to-back 300s?
I have not.
Okay.
I went 300, 299. That's close as I've ever done.
That's better than I've ever done. And Sammy, front half, 6 down, 6 to go.
Sammy is not scared. And he's been on TV before. He knows what's going on.
Yeah, it's pretty fresh in his memory what Walter Ray.
And he's a high roller player. I mean, he's played for big bucks before and in tough tournaments. This is nothing new. The thing that he's got to not let get in his mind is the fact I could win my first title. I mean, that's not even should not even be a thought.
Ventura up.
Ryan LeClair looking on, seeing how his opponent is doing.
Ventura can get 32. Oh, that held on. You heard the double dribble. And we can no longer call it a perfect game attempt, but we can still call it a run for 300.
That's 7 in a row. And unfortunately, the palm of his hand was facing the floor. He went around that thumb down.
You heard the ball hit differently on the lane.
Yeah, well, when you thumb down it goes right to the floor. It does sound different.
All Sullins can do here is strike and fight back. No
but,
other option.
This is the thing, depending on how people look at stuff, that could get so into Sullins' head, because he got a break. He threw a bad shot and got rewarded, and that could get in your opponent's head. And if it does, good for you, bad for him.
And how about that? Something's going to take care of that.
There's a couple messengers there.
And Sullins takes care of business, but he still finds himself down by 32 with just 3 frames remaining.
Well,
Sullins, look at the number of Halls of Fame this guy's in. USBC Hall of Fame, Michigan State Hall of Fame, Detroit Hall of Fame, Michigan Majors Bowling Hall of Fame. Holy cow.
Well, they call him the legend for a reason.
Right.
It was 700 and some tournaments he bowled consecutively on tour, never missed one. He's the Iron Man of bowling. He has got to figure out the left lane.
Yeah, must strike situation here to stay close for Sullins.
He left a 4-pin. Did it go high? No.
And he's letting Sammy know, I am still here.
Yeah, I'm not done yet.
Sammy taking an extra second to compose himself. Can't blame him.
Sammy up in the 8th.
Because Sammy knows he can't make a mistake here.
No.
Because that lets Sullins right back in the match.
I thought Sammy had through, and that was Brian LeClair over there warming up. I didn't say I missed something.
Time to just let the ball do the talking, Sammy.
Yeah. Don't study long. Study long, study wrong. Come on, Sammy. Good shot there.
At 8 teased him, you see he's still staring at don't you dare stand. And just a reminder, the PBA and FloBowling, any 300 game thrown in a championship round match on FloBowling gets a $1,000 bonus. So a little extra money on the line here for Sammy as well.
Just take your time. That's all you can do, one shot at a time.
Hey, for everybody that decided to put their DVRs on Fox Sports 1 for the PBA League tonight and are joining us live here, thank you for doing it. You're watching a heck of a moment now.
That's at 9 o'clock tonight, I
9
believe.
Eastern.
Eastern time.
We are at 9 Eastern, 8 o'clock here in Hammond. And the bowler's going to get a chance for perfection.
Oh.
Not this time.
Just a little wide. Looked like he missed it quite at the bottom. Wasn't quite as pure as all the other shots, but still a possible 279, which Harry really needs to strike it out in the 9th and 10th here to make sure that Sammy steps up.
And no focus lost here for Sammy. He knows this spare is crucial at this moment.
Well, technically, every spare is crucial.
The waggle, the wiggle, and they all go down in 2 shots this time for Sammy. But still, 268 out there for Sullins. If Ventura goes, if Sullins goes, strikes out 268, 9 spare 9, we get a tie.
We have the possibility. Oh, and earlier this year we had a great tie match. Joel Carlson up in Trenton with Ron Mohr. 279, 279, 1-ball roll-off. Oh, that was incredible.
We've had a couple of ones. Brian LeClair was involved in one in our first match of the season in Clearwater.
Wasn't quite sure about that. Harry kind of stepped out of that, but it worked out well for him. And both guys playing the same part of the lane, just getting to that break point a little bit different. Sammy being a little bit straighter through the front. Harry kind of opening up the lane just a hair.
I love it that his pro shop is called Legends Shop on his shirt there.
He took a picture last week at Monticello because it's called Legends Bar, so he's standing right there.
Needs to punch all 3 in the 10th to give a little bit of a tweak on the pressure to Ventura. Anything less, and Harry's going home in 3rd. And half 10.
Oh, just didn't make it. He wanted that, well, obviously bad. Anybody in this show wants every shot bad, but it's been a while for Harry to be on the show, and you can't want it too bad. You can, again, the pins know that you're squeezing.
So Brian LeClair will be battling Sam Ventura. LeClair looking to go back-to-back for titles.
He's led back-to-back tournaments. Sir Strike-a-Lot, that's what I call him. And that kid gets on a roll, and I'm calling him a kid because I'm way older than he is. Unbelievable. I mean, his balance, his release, his focus, and when he starts striking, he just strikes. I mean, for most people, they kind of run out of strikes. Brian doesn't.
Here's the question now. If LeClair wins tonight, that kind of puts a new focus on the Player of the Year race for PBA50. Yes, Walter Ray does have a pretty substantial lead, but the thing is, Walter Ray this week with Bowling PBA League earned 0 Player of the Year points by missing this event, where LeClair is going to be able to close up a ton, especially with a win.
Well, yeah, that would give LeClair 2 wins. Walter still has 3, but I mean, we got, 4 more tournaments left.
Correct.
So,
actually, for the 50 guys, there's only 3. You've got Anderson, you've got Grand Rapids,
and Jackson
60.
3. Yep.
So,
and there's 5 tournaments if you're 60 or older.
That's right.
Because we got 2 in Jackson, actually, 150, 160. Then we finish up in Fort Wayne on August the 10th, PBA 60.
Yes, indeed. So there's Sammy waggling it out. He's going to be battling Brian LeClair. LeClair's coming on getting some practice. And Tom Carter and I will be back with that championship match. Special guest Michael Haugen Jr. coming in the booth as well.
Mr. 300 back-to-back.
Yes, indeed.
Sammy Ventura does it again. Congratulations to Harry Sullins. Nice bowling, Harry. Both great. Harry Sullins, everybody. Brian LeClair coming on for the championship match. Brian will take 8 shots through. It's going to be great. Good luck, guys.
Thanks again, John Weber. Everything you do for the PBA50 Tour. Hardest working man out here, no doubt about it. I'm Phil Brylow. Tom Carter still in the booth with us. And joining us, the man who had the only 2 perfect games of the week this week here in Hammond.
And he had them back-to-back, which is that's hard. It's hard enough to do one, let alone do them back-to-back.
Yeah, I really don't know how I did it, to be honest with you. Out of the 24, I think 22 of them were just like dead flush too. It's kind of crazy. So.
You got to like that.
Yeah, then we made the flip from the high end to the low end, and 190 jumped right back out at me. So that's the way it goes.
Oh, Harry's stopping by to talk again. We'll let him hear. Harry Sullins just stopped by the booth letting Tom Carter and Michael Haugen Jr. know about his reaction to that match. And part of it is, front 7 with 2 crossovers. Yeah, Sammy got it. But
unfortunately, we do get breaks in this game. I mean, you get ripped off. At least that's what we call it. So many times when you throw it good and you don't strike, and then you make a mistake and you get a break. So I think it all evens out.
Is that what LeClair did to the lanes right there for Sammy?
No, I think that's just nerves. I mean, he looked down at the lane and stuff, but it looked like he pulled it a little bit, and it looked like he didn't want to give away the pocket in the first frame.
Right.
He's bowling for a title. He doesn't bowl for many. I think it's just nerves.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. He's thought about this point so many times in his life. This is his 3rd show, and I think he said 10 tournaments, and he wants it bad. So, and he could have got a little slow, pulled it, but you never want to shoot a 3, 6, 9, 10.
No, especially not as your first frame.
But he's got to bowl Sir strike a lot, and that guy strikes a lot. He back-to-back leads last week and this week, and if he wins tonight, back-to-back titles.
And it wasn't the greatest of 2018s for him, for LeClair, because he was battling that knee injury. He was ready to wrap it up after the first 4 stops of the year. They gave him his Player of the Year award at the stop in Farmingdale, and that knee brace has been his career saver.
Well, yeah, because we thought he was going to quit because he couldn't post a shot. And now he always wears black pants now because that black knee brace. But he said that he just can't bowl without it. He said there's no chance of him posting a shot. So that thing cost him $1,200. They measured him for it, and it's been a godsend ever since.
Well, I mean, you said it exactly correct. He can't bowl without it. So if he doesn't have the knee brace, career over. So if it's $1,200 or $5,000, if you want to bowl, we're spending the money. We're bowling.
Exactly.
And a little correction on the spare attempt. Boy, that first ball really hydroplaned.
Well, we talked about him earlier, that he's got such great speed, and a lot of these patterns are requiring the guys to be really firm, I think, and straighter. And for some of the older guys, it's harder. It's hard for them to throw it that hard and keep it on line like that. But well, Michael, you can. You've got great speed. He's got great speed, and the guys that can keep the ball on line. I just think the mids seem to hook so much. For if you got lower ball speed, it forces you left, and your pin carry isn't quite as good.
The mids hook period here, whether you have ball speed or not. The only way you really get any hold is to get the ball going away from the pocket a little bit. And Sammy's using, a very low RG, low differential bowling ball with shine on it, and using speed to kind of keep it in play. And LeClair's trying to go away from it a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. And he's been using a ball that back ends a little bit more. Now he's using a phase 2, it looks like. And,
yeah, he's using a pin down phase 2.
Right, so he's trying to slow down the back end reaction just a little bit and use his ball speed to keep it on line. And right now I would say advantage Sammy.
LeClair's lead, the way he got the lead, he said he went out to the car and got a winter solid and polished it and threw it firmer up the right side. And I'm surprised on the fresh here that he hasn't gone to that ball, especially watching Sammy's reaction with the pearl ball on the outside. Something because that phase 2 looks like it's got maybe a little surface on it, and it's pinned down.
I think it does have surface on it a little bit. He was using the winner and warm-ups to the left. What I think is happening is Harry was talking to you a little bit earlier about the right lane being a little tighter.
Right.
And I believe that he doesn't think that the winner's going to shape off the back end, so I think he's trying to get it to go a little sooner and around that spot. When you do that, you might get more pocket, but you don't get the carry. He didn't even hit the head pin on the first shot, so we'll see what adjustment he makes on the right lane. But I think he's trying to play more pocket as opposed to getting the carry right now.
Did the scoring pace of last game between Ventura and Sullins affect LeClair's ball choice for this game? Because Sammy won with a couple of 220s, and all of a sudden it goes 500 for the two guys in that match.
Not knowing Brian that well, I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I would say that if I'm Brian LeClair and I'm coming in a title match, I'm bowling against a guy that hasn't won yet, that wants to win really badly. I got to think he's going to be amped up. I know he's going to throw it straight. Sammy just left the 2, I believe it was the 2.8, the 4.8, just a shot ago. That's ball speed, especially after pulling the one on the left lane. I think 2-teen's going to win this game.
Yeah, we're just waiting on that deadwood clear on the left lane.
And if it takes a little longer for the deadwood, they're going to need some practice because they're going to get stiff.
There's the hook. That's what we like to see. Yeah. Skillful use of a pin hook to remove that deadwood.
There we go. We're back in play.
Yeah, in the Midwest, we have a few crafty mechanics still lurking back there, and they know how to get that wood out really cleanly.
So it all depends if Sammy can control his nerves for the next 8 frames to win his first title, because he's got to be a little amped up.
That looked early again.
That was early again, and
wow.
That was farther left than he'd been playing this whole match, because he threw one that hooked early and he moved farther right the last match, and that's how he played that lane, farther right, and that was more like dead up 10.
Yeah, it definitely looked like he moved in a couple off his 3, 6, 9, 10 and just got through it. And, that's kind of what we did. I mean, I crossed a few pairs right of Sammy, and, as soon as that ball hooked early, there was a little spot that you could jump into, just barely left of the track. And if you were firm enough, the ball would see the hold. If you weren't firm enough, the ball didn't see the hold.
Well, he is way farther left. He crossed like 12, 13 and took out to 6, so he's covering a few more boards. And he's got a much stronger ball, too.
Yeah, like I said, his idea of what he's going to do to this right lane is to shape it more. He's going to ball down with speed, and he's going to get a bigger ball and try to go around it a little bit more in that right lane, take the hang spot out of play. Now, he threw the first one a little quick. He didn't hit the head pin. He softened up on that one, grabbed a little bit more. He almost 410'd. If he can't figure out the right lane, Sammy's going to win this tournament, nerves or not.
Oh, the back ends are pretty crisp. When you go across the lane, you use your strike ball to pick up a left side spare. I've seen a lot of guys this week do that, and the ball just duck hooked on the back end. I have to apologize because last week I called the supersonic. I kept saying it was a big ball, asymmetrical, and it's actually a symmetrical ball.
It is a very big cover, but it is
a
symmetrical core.
It's a symmetrical ball. But so I apologize for that for everybody that heard me last week and is listening this week.
Well, there's only a couple hundred bowling balls that come out every year that everybody's got to keep an eye on. It's easy to miss one.
Yeah, especially if you don't have your cheat sheet in front of you.
Exactly.
Well, no cheat sheet needed on that left lane.
That was dead firmer. I mean, just big, strong kid, and he can throw it. You know, I'm jealous because I can't throw it that hard.
Well, I mean, according to what Harry told us when he came off the lanes, left lane was hooking. He said it hooks more. That's going to fit into Brian's game. He can throw it right, get it to return. He can keep his ball speed up. The right lane is the key. Like I said, he got quick. He missed a head pin. He got soft and it went through. He left a 4-pin. Whatever adjustment he makes in the right lane is going to make or break the match if Sammy doubles here.
Sammy's farther in on the right lane, and Sammy did double. Sammy moved into like 12 on the right lane.
Yeah, he's just moved left of the track. He's paralleling his moves. His ball will never see right of the track the rest of this match. If he gets the 10 out, Sammy's going to have his first title, and there's going to be a lot of tears in this building.
Oh, boy. His wife will be crying like
I was going
crazy.
to say, can we get a pulse monitor on Tracy right now? Because I bet you that thing's her ticker's going a couple hundred beats a minute right now.
It's everything they can do to keep her seated right now, I guarantee you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Cozy's got her handcuffed to the chair so she can't get out.
Yeah. She was already up here crying. We're bowling for a title.
Let's see if he can make it 3 in a row.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's going to be – that held. I thought that was going to be a little high off his hand.
Yeah.
But whatever trick he did with his wrist, it went down the lane and it held. Maybe he found that shim.
I think it's that little move he made left, and he found the shim. And
well, that's what he calls it, shim to win. He must have found that.
That's right. That's why he's throwing the ball he's throwing. It's a pro cover. It's a clean cover. It's one of our weaker covers, and he's using the cover and his ball speed to get it to the front. He's just hoping it'll tip just enough in the back to get the 10 out. And so far, he's doing it pretty well.
Oh, it'll tip. There's no doubt about it. The back ends will let it go. Oh, we could have a match now. If he knows that was a little high, he's going to make another adjustment on the right lane, I would assume. But Brian gets into strike mode. We're definitely going to have a match.
Yeah, he can definitely strike with the best of them. The trip 4 is, like you said, is going to make a move. The question is, does he throw it firmer? Does he move left? And does he try to shape it more? If he does move left and shape it more, does it go through the break point, or does it catch it?
There's
and
way
actually
too many
jump out of
options.
it? Well, I mean, but that's what's going to happen. I mean, we bowled on this. We know what it's going to do.
Yeah, but out here, it's always, I don't want to call it a guessing game, but, you know, you're making an adjustment based on the knowledge that is thrown in front of you, and is it the right move? And you won't know that until you throw the ball. What works for one person might not work for another.
Absolutely.
What's the deal with that 8-pin, guys? Because I thought he was going to just crumble the rack apart, and that 8-pin just stood there, nothing near it.
As Mike said, the left lane hooks more, as Harry told us. I think he made a little bit of an adjustment on that, and that ball just didn't quite finish on the back end.
Yeah, he might have got a touch quick, too, knowing that he needed that to get back in front in the lead and force some pressure on Sammy. Not be uncomfortable in the right lane. He probably really wanted that one.
So,
might have got a little quick with it.
So I got a question for you. And we talked to Mike Fagan last week about this. And when you watch LeClair put his hand in the ball, his thumb first, rotates around fingers. You ever done that?
Never. There's only one other person I know in the world that does that. That's Tommy Jones. And it works pretty well for Tommy.
And Baker does that. Tom Baker does that, too.
I did never notice Tom doing that. I don't know the reason behind it, but
Wayne Webb does it.
It's just what those guys do.
Yeah, I didn't know if you ever tried it, experimented with it. Sammy almost got in trouble there. He almost got in too quick. That ball never really got to the break point down right. It was really on top of that marker.
He actually, to me, it looked like he got it way in and it pushed late. He was actually outside the track, outside the break point, down lane, and he's very fortunate he's not shooting a 2-4-10 right now.
Yeah, you don't want to be shooting a split right now.
No.
You know, Fagan said, if I put my thumb in first and grab with my fingers, I'm throwing it through the ceiling.
It might not come off my hand. I might be with it.
Here it is, 7 pins the advantage now for Ventura after that spare.
So we're down to a 3-frame game.
Well, 4 actually, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're my math's rubbing off on you, Tom. I apologize.
It's true. I'm already counting the 7th frame we're there. So I'm.
So we've got 256 max for Ventura, 249 max for LeClair. But I don't think either player is going to get there with the way these lanes are starting to get chewed up.
Yeah,
well,
nerves are setting in for sure.
Is it the lanes? Exactly. Is it the lanes or is it the nerves that are getting chewed up right now? Sammy wanting his first, and I know Brian wanting back-to-back. You know, if he wins, he's got to run at Player of the Year.
Yeah, it's a backdoor shot, but you definitely have to put him in the conversation. And, I mean, Walter won the first 3 tournaments of the year. Brian can win 3 in a row, and you never know what'll happen.
Yeah, there's still
And
room.
and as we said earlier, there's 3 tournaments left.
And this is a point-deciding race. It's not just a title-deciding race. And Walter bowled, the team tournament this past week in Maine, and missing this tournament. You'd hate to see something like that cost him, but it potentially could.
Right, exactly. And Anderson, Indiana, Wyoming, Michigan. I think that's on a 34-foot pattern. Oh.
Yeah, we have the Del Ballard pattern in Wyoming, and we finish with Petraglia in the News Center at Jackson 60. So there's going to be spark in both of those last 2 stops.
That's a brand new lane surface.
Brand new lane surface
60.
in Jackson too.
Also in Anderson next week, he supposedly put new lane beds in there as well. So 2 of our last 3 stops are going to be on fresh lane beds.
That's going to make a huge difference on ball reaction compared to, especially when we bowled there before, thinking, okay, it's kind of like this. It's going to be a whole new ball game.
Yeah, it's brand new for everybody at this point.
So LeClair, 2017 PBA50 Player of the Year, took down 2 titles that year at the Pasco County Florida Open and Johnny Petraglia at BVL Open. So he's been in that Player of the Year race before and taken it down, such as the man to our right, Michael Haugen Jr. He's our reigning for 2018. And looking to rain some pins on this shot, and he does it.
Yeah, it looked like he did move in a little deeper and just shaped it more, and he threw that one perfect.
Yeah, he threw that fantastic.
Now the key here.
Got a chance to take the lead right now.
Well, he was a little quick last time, I believe. The question is, does he trust his ball speed and throw it as good as he threw that last shot, or does he try to jam it in there and hold the pocket?
Well, I think his forte is if he's got such great speed, if he can use it, it works to his advantage. He's got such a strong wrist anyway, because he's got enough reps getting down the lane. That's not the issue.
Yeah, those are 2 great shots right there.
10 back, double on the board, and the lead for LeClair. And Ventura can max out at 245.
Sammy's got to get back into the mode that he was when he was striking, just happy-go-lucky, relaxing. If he's starting to think about this too much, it could be all bad.
Yeah, he actually needed this to be a 3-game title match instead of a 4-game title match. Stepladder, then he would have been a little bit better off. The lanes go through transition. And
could be. Oh, he got that kick off the sideboard, which was a good thing. Now he's got to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. He got a little softer on that one. He didn't throw that one through the break point. He actually rolled that to the track, let it tip up, and used that half pocket, which, when you're playing further right, that half pocket is most of the time our friend, and it was Sammy's friend that time.
And from our angle back here, and we don't know what's going through his head, but did he mean to throw it softer and let it tip, or do you wonder, was that the nerves? He just tried to place it right there and it ended up being softer. Either way it worked. Doesn't make a difference, but he's got to get back on that lane.
Because he threw it right, I would say he meant to throw it a little softer. If he had thrown that in front of him, then I would think that would have been an accident. But he's thrown the last 2 shots further right, and he was trying to shape it, and that one
he
didn't
thought
shape.
that was good. I know he did. He posted that shot thinking it was coming back, and he got it right to the friction, and everything else has kind of been bouncing back. That's the lane that was hooking. But I think it was a little bit too far right down lane. He just got outside the track, as you talk about, and it kind of skidded.
A little outside and a little quick. Definitely the nerves, definitely wanted it, knew he needed it.
Well, he definitely needs this spare.
Yeah. He knew that LeClair is locked in, and, LeClair threw 2 great shots. He went 4-pin, trip 4, and then he went dead flush on that right lane. Doesn't look like he's going to miss on the right lane now. Sammy needed that. Got a little aggressive and went after it.
There's nothing wrong with being aggressive. I'd rather see him be aggressive and go after it. And he's got a chance. Oh, and
almost got it off the back.
He almost got it off the back. He got in front of our camera, but I thought maybe he might have got it off the back.
Yeah, I'd be willing to bet that pin fell just in the gutter right there. It was really close. I mean, he didn't turn around from it, which means he was watching it.
This is a huge shot for LeClair.
Couple of marks.
Yeah, a couple of marks, but, he can't split. He still would have the lead even if he did. Then it would be just a 10th frame match.
Well, it depends on the split, too. We've seen LeClair take the 4 out the heart before.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned with 4 right now. I'm concerned with the one Tom was talking about a little earlier.
No 7-10 there.
No, but it was late. 7 to 10 were late, but he was soft at the bottom again, and he got into shape, and that's where the advantage comes in for a veteran player like LeClair, who's won out here an experienced victory. Right. When Sammy didn't get the strikes in the middle of the match and LeClair figured out the right lane, that was the telltale of this match.
Well, now he just needs a mark.
He doesn't even. Yeah, he doesn't. Now he doesn't even need to mark. 9 out would win.
He's changing balls. I think he's taking the high hard one. Down the middle.
Ooh, I wouldn't have done that because now he can't. I don't know if that's enough.
19.
Nine's a win by a pin. If he gets 2 here, he wins by a pin.
Oh my God.
I think. No.
Are you sure?
Yeah. 9's. Yeah, that's 9 will be 215 or 214. That's a win by a pin.
Win by a pin.
He knew it.
I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that.
205, 214.
Yeah, he wins by a pin.
No matter what. I would have still thrown the shot. I think he almost miscalculated there.
That's some confidence in your own math, stepping up in the 10th frame for LeClair.
Yeah, well, you big for that, then.
Well, if you go 4 count there, how about if you go 4 count there?
Oh my Lord!
Right. Yeah.
That was a gutsy play.
Yeah, that wasn't recommended.
For you people at home, don't do that.
If you're Sam Ventura, right now, you've got 2 second-place finishes this year. What do you do to try to? I mean, how do you take it out of your mind when you walk in the door in Anderson?
Well, I think you got to look at it both ways. I mean, he's surely going to be disappointed he didn't win this tournament. I mean, we all are when we get to the title match. And like Tom was saying earlier, you only get so many chances to win, so you never want to see one slip away. But in the same token, he finished second, and he bowled good, So you got to go into Anderson with good thoughts and so forth.
Totally agreed. I mean, you got to have confidence now because you've got 2 seconds. You bowled well. You just got a bad break. So you can get there. It's just a matter of, putting the cap on it.
Oh, we'll be talking to your winner, Brian LeClair, in just a moment. Tom Carter, Michael Hogan Jr., thanks again for all your insight during this championship match. Tom, we'll see you back in the booth in Anderson, and we're going to let John Weber take over the ceremonies right now.